All right, sports fans, how's everyone out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, fans of the Dallas Cowboys went to bed last night knowing that head coach Mike McCarthy will be returning in 2024. And as McCarthy is returning, it also means more of the same for the Dallas Cowboys. And I say this because on the surface, you can look at the fact that the Cowboys have gone 12-5 in each of the last 3 years under McCarthy. But the January results have basically been the same. We're talking about two disappointing playoff losses um, at the hands of the San Francisco 49ers. And then, of course, the disappointing loss this past weekend at home to the Green Bay Packers. And honestly, at the end of the day, I've got some news for you. You can expect more of the same going forward. Now, the Cowboys lost this past Sunday to the Green Bay Packers for the same reasons that they were sent home by the 49ers in each of the last 2 years. The turnovers from quarterback Dak Prescott. In the Cowboys' last three losses, Dak Prescott has thrown 5 touchdowns, but he's also thrown 5 interceptions. The Cowboys cannot stop the run. If you look at the two losses to the 49ers ran the football right down the throat. And of course, we just saw what the Green Bay Packers did to them this past Sunday. Dallas, throughout their regular season, it's one of those things where they simply continue to feast on bad teams while they tend to come up short against the good teams. And it's sad, but the reality is the Cowboys were not prepared to play at home this past Sunday to the pack in their loss to the Packers. And at the end of the day, that is something that falls into the lap of the head coach, in this case, Mike McCarthy. Your star players didn't show up, and they continue not to show up in these big moments. And honestly, the head coach doesn't show up either because time in and time out, he doesn't have. I don't think he has his team prepared to play. You're looking at your big guys. Dak Prescott comes up short. C.D. Lamb comes up short. Micah Parsons comes up short. These are your big guys that you need to go out there and lean on in these pressure situations. Now, Cowboys team owner Jerry Jones can say whatever he wants about wanting to win another Super Bowl, but honestly, Jerry is content with having a team that could just make the postseason, and it starts with the coaches that he hires. Remember, Jerry ran off Jimmy Johnson and Bill Parcells, respectively. And since then, he's basically been content with the Jason Garretts and the Mike McCarthys of the world because why? They won't challenge him. They won't challenge his authority with the team. And it's one of those where nobody can be a bigger icon with the Dallas Cowboys other than Jerry Jones. So, with all of that said, I know a lot of people were talking about, well, the Cowboys need to go out there and get rid of Mike McCarthy and go after Jim Harbaugh, go after Bill Belichick. Did you really think that Jerry Jones was going to bring one of those guys in? Because a Jim Harbaugh or a Bill Belichick, it's one of those where the name is big on the marquee, but Jerry would have to relent some control as far as the personnel decisions go in Dallas. And Jerry Jones simply ain't doing that. And when it's all said and done, the same old mistakes continue to haunt the Dallas Cowboys. It's one of those where it's the turnovers from Dak in the key moments, it's the penalties from this team, and simply routinely coming up short. Why? Because you got a head coach in Mike McCarthy, and you've got a quarterback in Dak Prescott that honestly, both of them have simply reached their ceiling. And I know you can say, well, Mike McCarthy does have a Super Bowl championship on his resume, but at the end of the day, how much of that credit belongs to Aaron Rodgers? I'll just leave it at that. But heading into the 2024 season, and I know we've got some time now, we've got about 8 months before the 2024 NFL season begins, but I'm going to go ahead and give you the script for the Dallas Cowboys for the 2024 season. It's going to go like this. Dallas is going to beat up on some bad teams. The media is going to take it and run with it. Their fan base is going to take it and run with it. Then they're going to get a reality check when they face a good team. They're going to split their season series with the Philadelphia Eagles, a top team that they're contending with to win the NFC East. Then they're going to lose to a bad team again, followed by losing to a good team. They're going to get on back on track by beating a decent team coming down the stretch before they follow that up by beating a bad team. We're going to talk about Dallas going into January. Oh, this is going to be their year, this, that, and the third. And once again, in early January, they're going to be sent home. And it's going to be the same old song for Mike McCarthy as he's going to get out coached in the postseason next year by the opposing head coach. Dak is going to turn the ball over, and the big time players for the Dallas Cowboys will continue to be a no show. I said this 2 years ago after the 49ers beat the Cowboys at AT&T Stadium. I said it again last year when the Cowboys went out to Santa Clara. And you can check the records on this channel about it. But at the end of the day, these are the same mistakes that continue to haunt the Dallas Cowboys. And until you change things at the top, things are going to remain the same. Now, last month, we saw Jerry Jones finally induct Jimmy Johnson into the Cowboys Ring of Honor. And it's almost as if the football gods are punishing Jerry Jones for what he did because people forget Jerry's ego got in the way and chased off Jimmy Johnson. And I know that the Cowboys went on to win another Super Bowl in 95, but the way that that team was structured under Jimmy Johnson and had Jimmy Johnson remain as Cowboys head coach, we're easily talking about a team during the decade of the 1990s that could have won 5 championships, excuse me. Whereas, we talked about the New England Patriots dynasty of the 2000s and 2010s that produced six Super Bowl championships for that matter in 9 appearances. This Cowboys team could have done what the Patriots did before the Patriots did it. That's how set up they were to succeed. And it's one of those where Jerry's ego got in the way. He's never recovered. His franchise has never recovered. And of course, his fan base continues to suffer on it. And honestly, the Cowboys, and I've said this before and I'm going to say it again, the Cowboys will never, and I mean never change as long as Jerry Jones owns a team because number one, he feels like he's the smartest guy in the room. Now, he's bringing back Mike McCarthy for 2024, but by doing that, you're basically letting your players know, you know what, we don't have to go out there and feel that pressure come January in the postseason. We've seen teams have success in the regular season and it doesn't, transfer to the postseason. And then we've seen those front offices get rid of head coaches. I think back to the Denver Broncos from about a decade ago. They got to the Super Bowl with John Fox as their head coach at the end of the 2013 season. A disappointing divisional round exit with a home loss to the Indianapolis Colts saw John Elway get rid of John Fox. You bring in Gary Kubiak, and of course, the next year, the Denver Broncos did win a Super Bowl championship. That's just one example. But for me, like I said, typically you would say there's nobody bigger than an organization. But in my opinion, there's nobody bigger than Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys. And honestly, from the outside looking in, Jerry feels like he's bigger than the Dallas Cowboys. And I think that right there is part of the problem. Jerry's worried about more of the entertainment factor. And I think the media, or some of the media rather, for that part, they want the Dallas Cowboys to be good because they want something to talk about due to the past of the Dallas Cowboys. But you have a generation of Cowboys fans that have grown up now and they don't know what a winner is. Okay, so it's like it's one of those where you're going off of past accolades when you talk about the Michael Irvins, the Troy Aikmans, the Roger Staubachs, the Tony Dorsetts, the Drew Pearsons, the Bob Lillies, all of these guys. But nonetheless, what are these current Cowboys bringing to the table? And at the end of the day, they're just another football team that could beat up on the bad teams during the regular season, and then they get exposed in the postseason. It's plain and simple. Now, to his credit, Jerry Jones can draft some good players, but he's failed at finding those players and coaches that are going to go out there and be difference makers for his franchise come January. Winning in September and October and November is one thing, but January is a different beast altogether in the National Football League. Now, getting back to the Cowboys of the 90s, of course, they were known for their off the field partying, but at the end of the day, they knew how to get it done come Sunday afternoon, as you had guys on that team that had an over my dead body mentality as far as losing, as they basically were not going to allow it to happen on their watch. And you think about the base of of those championship teams for the Cowboys. It goes back to that Herschel Walker trade. Of course, Jimmy Johnson was very smart in how he flipped those picks around, and then of course the rest is history. But honestly, it's not even trying to sound like a hater. It's more like being realistic for Dallas Cowboys fans. This team is going to continue to build you up to let you down. We're going to see more of the same old song this time next season for the Dallas Cowboys. They'll probably go out there and put together a solid regular season. Dak's going to go out there and, tear it up against the bad teams. They're going to go out there and pad their stats and light it up. And that's going to be it. You have a defense that can't stop the run, and you have a defense that is built to play with a lead. Why? Because then those pass rushers like Micah Parsons, they could pin their ears back and come after the quarterback. But it's a little bit different when you're trailing, and it's a little bit different when you can't stop the run in those situations. And it because you're not in those situations where you're at your strength is trying to go out there and force turnovers, which is something that this team has thrived on. That's what Dallas is built on. They're not built to stop the run. They're not built to be physical on defense. And it's the same old song. Michael Parsons doesn't show up in those key moments. DeMarcus Lawrence gets key penalties. They're not running the football effectively. Dak is forcing the ball to CD Lamb, and he's turning the football over. That's not a winning recipe come January. It's the same old song for the Dallas Cowboys. And I got news for you. Things ain't changing no time soon. So, folks, that's going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.